All right, welcome back, and thanks for staying with the news feed, PM. Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, has been accused once again of failing students from the Northwest University. It is alleged that the scheme failed to pay out allowances for the month of November, throwing many of them into disarray and under financial stress. To address some of these challenges and allegations, we've got with us from the Department of Higher Education, Ishmael Mnisi. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Good evening.
The students are saying the NSFAS office is closed, the NORACO office is closed, nobody is talking to them, everybody is gone to their festivities, these holidays, while 1,000 students are stuck at res, even as we speak.
As you can see me here, Thabo, it indicates that NSFAS is not closed, and our pay service contractors or service agents are not closed as well. We are hard at work trying to make sure that there is no student who will go home this year without their allowances being paid in two forms. There are allowances that still needs to be paid to the institutions which advance payment to NSFAS students, and there are those allowances which must go to the students. Now, as a result of that, NSFAS is currently engaged in a process of reconciliation, what we call mop-up payments, to reconcile all the payments made throughout the year and make the final payment that will close the academic year 2023.
Yeah. Why these students? Or are you telling us that it's not just these 1,000 or so students in the Northwest University?
Well, the mop-up exercise affects all universities. However, the degree at which changes have taken place with student data throughout the year differs. At the moment, we are flagging about 17 institutions that are affected. But as I'm saying, the degree differs from one institution to the other. But maybe let me explain how the disbursements are done at NSFAS.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, we approve students for financial aid or for a bursary based on the allowance types that they qualify for. For an example, if we give you tuition and you indicate to us that you also need accommodation, we give you allowances that addresses your peculiar situation.
Yeah.
If you then say, no, I don't need accommodation, I need transport allowance, we also accommodate you in that effect. Now, if there are changes in the system throughout the year, those changes we can pick them up at the end of the year when we do this mop-up payment. And this is where the crux of the problem is, that we're still dealing with that reconciliation of data from all the institutions to make sure that we pay the right allowance to the right student, and also the balance to the institutions which throughout the year have been advancing the payments.
Do you couch them all and say these are living allowances, or do you specify them? Because the students are saying, well, these are living allowances. What we do with them could vary. Some of us actually do use them as transport money to go home. Hence, we are unable to go home right now.
NSFAS always specifies why the amounts that they pay. If we pay tuition, we'll indicate this money goes for tuition, and that's the money that goes directly to institutions. Monies that goes for transport and your living allowances goes to the students. So they would know that a particular portion of that amount is meant for a particular purpose. Now, we are very clear in terms of those disbursements to avoid monies that are supposed to be used for transport, then they get used for living allowances, or money that's supposed to be using for study materials, then they get used for other things. So we get very specific with these allowances, and to make it easy for us to account for the public money that we use.
Yeah. So what is the question, what is causing this backlog? Because it seems this backlog is since November. So it's not only just the December disbursement, but since November some of these amounts have been outstanding. They're saying it's not just living allowances, but it is also outstanding balances that have not been cleared.
Exactly. The point that I've made, that when an allowance gets paid, it's very specific what those allowances are. Now, changes that occurs in between the year or during the year affects the amount of the disbursement that goes to a child. Let me give you another example, Thabo. If we approve you for an LLB degree in law, then you change to a medical degree. The amounts that institution charges for tuition differs. Now that affects the allowance that goes. Now that reconciliation we can only do at the end of the year to see that Ishmael has actually moved from LLB to a medical degree, and that affects the type of an allowance that we pay. So we are dealing with those types of challenges. However, there are two things that we are doing. Firstly, we are negotiating with the institutions for us to have cut-off dates for changes to be made in the allowances. So that if we have agreed that by April all changes must have been effected, we would know that there are no changes that NSFAS will entertain after this cut-off date. Then it will give us enough time to reconcile our books throughout the year, and then we won't have the current challenges that we are having. Similarly, we are trying working with all our institutions to deal with data management, because that is another challenge that we have been having for quite some time. But our institutions are up to the task. We are up to the task. As even now, we are still at work, making sure that we don't have similar problems in the 2024 academic year.
Yeah. So, I mean, others are saying they're receiving false notifications or scams that are saying, well, such and such an amount has been credited with their required NSFAS allowance. But when they go there, there's nothing there. How do you explain that?
The communication channels of NSFAS are very clear. We don't send SMSs to students. All that we do, we send messages to their My NSFAS account. That's the authoritative account where they can get direct messages from us, and they can even communicate to their institutions. Any other information that comes, which is not through those channels, is very skeptic and must be treated as such by all the students. So we always encourage them to use the NSFAS approved channels, which they can even get them from our website, and they can even engage with the institutions that they've enrolled at.
Yeah. So you're saying the delay in payment is because of the reconciliation. It's year end. It's something that is this something that has always been?
Well, there has always been challenges in terms of the system, particularly since we have implemented the direct payments situation or services or solution in June. Majority of these problems as a result of us having to pay the students directly, especially the living allowances and accommodation, including transport. Initially, those challenges were not experienced when money was going into the institution, but the challenge then, Thabo, was that the monies were delayed in terms of paying the students. And that's why we adopted as NSFAS a process of paying directly in order to avoid these kind of challenges. But the systems are the problem, and that's why we are working hard with our institution to have a common system of interaction between NSFAS and the institutions, so that in real time we are able to receive data from institutions. If a particular student data changes, we can be able to monitor through the system that there are those changes, and then it will then assist us in our reconciliation period.
You're doing that. It's not the same thing, but it's as if you are punishing the students, right? It's a collective punishment of the students for your own system delays. Because one, they would have had to write exams, some of them with no source of money. They couldn't even buy toiletries. They are saying they couldn't even buy food, and they had to go through that whole month. Now they're going through the month of December. 1,000 of them are stuck at rest right now because of your own system that is delaying the process.
Well, Thabo, we really acknowledge that point, that the delays in the system affect the students severely, and we regret that part. And we are working very hard to make sure that such lapses do not occur going forward. And that's why we have commitment from various institutions that they will work with us to, with these parameters that we have set, cut-off dates, and also ensuring that the system integrates so that we assist the students. We acknowledge that, and it is very much regrettable.
And what about those now who are abandoned there? What must be done about it?
Well, we are hard at work, as we are saying now, and we have engaged with various institutions, including the Northwest, to make sure that they do everything possible within their means to even advance some of this money to students so that they can go back home safe and restart the academic year well. But we can confirm that the payments would be done anytime from today going forward. Whilst we're doing that, and that's why our appeal has been to institutions, please do help work with us and assist the students to get home safe. For those institutions which are saying they do not have money to do so, we have also requested that they should not close their residences to make sure that the students are accommodated in the interim.
And that means the final, I suppose, reconciliation process would only happen when? Next year, February?
No. We are, intending to close the books this year, so that when we begin the academic year, we would have paid all the outstanding allowances.
So by the end of this year, you're saying even all those outstanding balances would have been cleared?
Definitely. If you are an NSFAS student and we have been confirmed for funding and we have been funding you throughout the year, we commit that we will make sure that all the allowances are paid and closed in this year.
How are you going to make then the system to be a little bit more robust, to be able to pick up these changes on the go?
Thabo, we have made a commitment to the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Platin Zimande, that we are refining our systems, and those systems that we are busy working on now, we are testing them with various institutions, and they are working very well, and we continue to engage with them to make sure that these systems come beginning of the year have changed, and all the institutions, they understand exactly how to input data in those systems. Where there are glitches, we'll be sending our own officials to go and camp in each and every university, in each and every TVET college to make sure that the system runs perfectly.
Yeah, because I'm asking that because you have, for example, SRD grants, a system that is able to pick up when there's been a deposit, for example, in your bank account, and it kicks you out of the system and doesn't release that SRD grant for that month because there's been some action on your bank account, which means there are systems that government can put in place that can pick up that, oh, this particular student is no longer needing transport allowance, is now at rest, and therefore change the bracket of allowances that they're able to receive.
We are working with other government agencies such as SASSA, the Department of Home Affairs, SARS, to make sure that we align our systems with them, because their systems actually, they help us to even make funding decisions. So we are aligned with them, and we hope that whatever systems that we are introducing now will be able to deal with those lapses. But we are dealing with the system in trial and error here, Thabo, because we implemented this system in June. So it's only 5 months old. And we really want to say, well, we must be given enough time. We understand the importance of us to get it right at the first time. However, system glitches will always prevail when you implement a system whilst you're doing the trials. Yeah. So this is where we are at the moment, and we're working throughout to make sure that we minimize these glitches. So
you're saying the challenge now, because students are also blaming the service provider, it's not on the service provider side?
No. It's not on the service provider side. It's on the system. As we are saying, we are reconciling, and because after we have reconciled our data, we then pass it over to the service providers to facilitate the payment. So service providers, Thabo, they don't determine the amounts that must be paid to students. NSFAS does, because they only do it on behalf of NSFAS. So we have to make sure that there's integrity in the data we give them, to make sure that there are no comebacks in terms of overpayments or even underpayments in certain instances.
Ishmael, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's Ishmael Mnisi there, speaking on behalf of NSFAS, wearing the hat, as you can see, but also the Department of Higher Education.